Another one of my old tunes. These, by the way, are contemporary performances. Now performance of a song that used to ripple off like water on a duck's back 40 or more years ago. I did do this next song in New York City 3 weeks ago in downtown Manhattan at the first Sweet Pie show in 42 years in New York City, and sold out the foremost cabaret theater in the city, Joe's Pub. The show is still being streamed on youtube.com/joespubny, and you have to manually type in Sweet Pie Boogie because it's not their most current show, but it's still there on the stream. Watch it, please. This is Ragtime Wet Dreams, a song I wrote about 1973, maybe 4. Those years all blend into one big lump of the greatest time of my life.
Thanks to what was it? The Cavalier whiskey that, or
Calvert.
Calvert.
Smooth. Before that, I drank John Jameson's Irish whiskey. Not a drop sold till 7 years old. Well, 7 years into that habit, I went to whiskey that had no kick. It just slid down like water. And then I never gave up whiskey, and probably would have been dead of it 30, 40 years ago already, but for the fact I passed out on stage. I blacked out on stage in New York City at Dr. Generosity's, singing If You See K. I went with my finger up in the air like that and fell back off the stool and didn't wake up until a day and a half later in Vermont. And a couple sitting right in front had driven down from Vermont to see their favorite ski area act in the Big Apple. They dried me out for 2 weeks. They sat on me, kept me locked in their farmhouse with them, and they would not let me out. They said I was the most miserable, horrible house guest they ever had, because I wanted to drink real bad, and every time I wanted to drink, they stuck a joint in my mouth. And I was a pipe smoker, you know. I found out after 2 weeks, sometimes a new habit doesn't seem to threaten to kill you while the old habit is doing you in.
Right.
And I have to thank them for my life in a way, because they dried me out and I've never had a drink since.
All right.
I don't know their names because they weren't what I knew of as my friends. They were 2 people who were fans of my act and acquaintances. They proved where friends come from.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a profound effect on my life, and I've never drunk since.
Was there a time you puked on Odessa too?
Yeah, that was at the same gig.
Same gig?
Yeah, that was at Dr. Generosity's. Before I passed out, I had to throw up. I had started the song already, so Will Maloney, the late Will Maloney, he kept playing his harmonica, and he could play a hell of a solo harp. And I went from the stage like this, and yet to get through people standing the whole length of the bar. Yeah. Stage is here, the bar is there, and the restrooms are there. And between the bar and the restrooms are about 60 feet. People, 5 people deep, standing behind the people at the bar stools, all reaching and getting served by a bartender every 3 feet, literally.
Wow.
And they're not there to see me. Dr. Generosity's was a scene. This is where people go all dressed up in whoever they think they are. You know, before internet, you had to be your own avatar in the real world. So it required costuming yourself.
Gotcha.
and pretending to be the perfect you know?
Gotcha.
Well, this was one of the bars that accommodated all those young, I guess, hip people.
Right.
Everybody's on their own trip to be
Cosmopolitans.
seen. And while they're being seen, they're pointing out other people. Over by the stage, maybe 1/4 of the house is at tables that can see and hear the show. Now I'm pushing through like this just to get through I had my cheeks full already, you know, and I couldn't hold it anymore. I exploded all over a slightly rotund, beautifully faced black woman in very bright colored robe style, you know, African type clothing. And I puked all over her, covered her. And that was Odetta, the African-American folk singer who had just recently finished a concert with Harry Belafonte at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow. Wow, way.
In a way, it serves the famous right for going into bars where the dregs of earth are on stage. Because I'm sure for the rest of her life, I was indeed one of the dregs on earth.
Yeah.
I've never told the story until I was convinced and finally told that she had passed away.
Oh.
Not for fear of her, but she was black, and bros have an attitude about certain things, and certain things are inviolate. You just do not do them.
Right.
And although no one's ever said so, I think one of them is you don't throw up on Odetta.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this is Ragtime Wet Dreams.
All right.
And I used to be a happy drunk, so a lot of my old tunes involved drinking and really gave good atmosphere for lots of good drinking times. Now this was one of them, Ragtime Wet Dreams. You can hear how out of tune some of these keys are on the piano, but the rhythm's right. I dreamed I loved a woman, a bump ahead of me. She jumped and bucked around like a hot stampede. I rode it till I fell, I broke my knee. She nuzzled in, she said, "You're a dead horse to me." I had a nightmare. Yeah, things ain't real as they seem. I woke up this morning, had a ragtime wet dream. I dreamed I loved a woman, shook so fast, shook my 4 gold teeth into quick petty cash. She shook Irish whiskey out of my glass, shook 100 living men flat on their ass. I had a nightmare. Yeah, things ain't real. No, things ain't real as they seem. I woke up this morning, had a ragtime wet dream. I boogie that thing. I loved a woman, too cool for me. Sex going down like a hard-on when I pee. Stuck it in a tube, I tried to get it straight. She took a look at me, said, "Shit, you're too late." Had a nightmare. Yeah, things ain't real. No, things ain't real as they seem. I woke up this morning, guess what? Had a ragtime wet dream. I dreamed I was a woman, loved a man like me. I begged, I pleaded, mercy, life is killing me. I found a rusty gun, aimed it at my head. I pulled the trigger twice, woke up there drunk in bed. Had a nightmare. Yeah, things ain't real as they seem. I woke up this morning, had a ragtime wet dream.